Good evening, everyone. Chris McDonald with the Mac Files broadcast, a special faith broadcast tonight. We've always are glad to have our dear friend Mark Taylor down in Central Florida. Mark is the author of the Trump Prophecies, a book that came out a couple of years ago with him and Mary Colbert. But Mark has been a very dear friend, and we've got to know each other over the last year. And Mark, it's just so good to have you, buddy. I'm really looking forward to this broadcast. I think, as the old saying goes in the South, this is going to be high octane information.
Absolutely. It's always good to be on your program, brother. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me again.
Good to see you, man. Mark, I wanted to just start out the program a little bit. The big thing in the news this week, and it's really troubling to me, honestly. I'm just being honest with you. I have never felt more troubled in my spirit at the gravity of, anytime somebody's accused of something that they're not guilty of. Look, even if they are guilty of it, when you hear accusations flying around certain things, you always get this pail in your stomach because, I think most of us out here, we just want the truth. We just want to know what actually took place. And if somebody's lying, then, it's not fair to the person they're accusing because really, and what I'm speaking of here is Brett Kavanaugh, the Supreme Court nominee. This lady comes out claiming that he attempted to rape her 35 years ago in a high school car. And I mean, it's just crazy stuff. But I know there's a spiritual component to this because I read your tweet the other day, and I loved it. I was retweeting it like crazy, and I loved it. You said people that are scared right now, the only accusation, the same people that are coming after Brett Kavanaugh is basically the same deep state people that are shaking in their boots because they know they're headed to Gitmo and other tribunals very soon.
Right.
And I just want you to speak to that as we get going on the program tonight, because I do believe this is an attempt of the devil again, another attempt to thwart God's plan. And I'm not saying Brett Kavanaugh's perfect. I don't know the man personally. I believe that, as far as nominees go, he's the most qualified President Trump probably could have put up for this Supreme Court. I think it's more the Democrats are scared in their boots, too, that it's going to be a 6-3 conservative majority. One step closer, they're going to have a 7-2 conservative majority. And, Mark, that can set the stage for some mighty good things happening to our country. A lot of laws, like Roe v. Wade, and a lot of things that have just been a hail of destruction and curse on our nation, they can be overturned with that kind of situation, no matter what the political will is in Washington. You get a court behind you, that's powerful when you get the judiciary to make decisions like that. Chime in on that, how you feel about that, buddy.
Yeah, you got to look at the root. What is the root behind this? Number one, this is just another, if you will, demonstration, if you will, of the demonic that is powers that are behind these people right now. And you're seeing it literally play out on national television. And then that was the first thing. And then the second thing is, they want to disguise this. I think Hillary Clinton had put out a tweet talking about, Roe versus Wade. This guy's going to gut Roe versus Wade or this, that, and the other. Folks, this particular, I don't want to say this judge has nothing to do with Roe versus Wade because he does, but this is not about that. They're disguising it as Roe versus Wade. That's not what the true problem is. The true problem here is that when they have a solid vote with this particular judge, because if you notice the line of questioning, brother, from Lindsey Graham the other day, when he brought up military tribunals.
Yes.
Now, Lindsey looked a little nervous when he was asking that, and there's a reason why, because I think he was told to ask that. But, that's not here nor there. But, I mean, again, this is all about voting or having the Supreme Court backing up the military-style tribunals being charged with treason, number one, and number two, possibly being executed. You and I both know it's coming, okay? And they know it's coming. You cannot run around in those circles and not know what happened to John McCain. They know the truth of what happened to John McCain. Whether it was cancer, whether it was lethal injection, whether it was whatever the case may be. I don't care. They know the truth about what happened. So why all of a sudden are they fighting this hard? It has everything to do with the military tribunals and being charged with treason. They know that they're going to have the Supreme Court at that point locked up for that one very reason. Now, his vote will go at some point to Roe versus Wade as well, but they're disguising it as that because they're not going to come out and tell you, hey, we don't want this guy in here because we don't want military tribunals. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's what this is all about. This is why you're seeing these demons manifest so hard right now. But once this gentleman is in, Judge Kavanaugh's in, that's it. Katie bar the door. It's over with. Now, everybody's been asking, when is the mass arrests and the tribunals, when are they going to start? Well, I don't have a timing for that. It's hard to pin down the timing. If you follow Q, a lot of people are Q followers out there, patriots. And I tell people, we're seeing a patriotic movement right now, Christopher, worldwide. And Q is getting a worldwide following. And this is the Great Awakening right now. And so when you look at this, and I tell people all the time, is this really a patriotic movement that's arising? Or is it the spirit of Elijah that's arising?
Great point.
And it's like when you tell people that, the light bulb comes on because the Lord's been showing me there's another showdown coming between the prophets of Baal and the spirit of Elijah. Now, who's ultimately in control right now of the earth? Who's controlling the Vatican? Who's controlling the churches? Who's controlling the deep state? Jezebel. It's all a controlling, manipulating spirit. So anytime the spirit of Elijah arises, the spirit of Jezebel will arise to counter it. So that's what you're seeing. You're seeing this clash going on in the spirit right now, whether it's Judge Kavanaugh, whether it's the deep state. I put out another tweet the other day. Before the hurricanes happened, I put out a tweet. I said, get ready. I said, between now and the midterms, it's going to be intense because the enemy is quaking and shaking right now because they know the midterms is the last holdout before all this stuff takes place. And this is not going to be a red wave. This is going to be a red tsunami. I've been saying this all along. The biggest blue thing they're going to get is going to be a drip, like a leaky faucet. You know what I mean? It's just going to be irritating at that. That's the only win they're going to get. So, right. When this red tsunami takes place, the president will have the backing to go after these people, and it will be a spirit of Elijah that will arise, that's arising upon the earth. We're seeing it right now. Brother, you're seeing people right now, literally, even in the Q movement, that is just incredible right now. You're seeing people that are really they don't call themselves Christians, but they're part of this spirit of Elijah, if you will. Their eyes are being opened. Their ears are being opened. This is phenomenal. This is like nothing in the history of man right now. But again, when good arises, so will evil to counter it. We just have to be prepared. We're introducing light into the dark. I call it the full moon effect. We're in the full moon effect right now.
Amen.
And nobody could, as a first responder, you ask any first responder, ER doc, or whatever the case may be, what the full moon does to somebody. Nobody's been able to give me an answer. So I took it to the Lord one day, and he said, Mark, the primary area of operation of the enemy is darkness. He said, when you introduce light from the full moon, it irritates and just a fire out of the demonic. So it brings out the worst in people. So this is what we're seeing right now. Right now, we're in this transition where we have this full moon effect going on. We're introducing light into the dark with this spirit of Elijah, patriotic Q movement, if you will, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same. And so it's agitating the demonic. They can't handle it because they know their time is short. Now, here's another thing I tweeted out the other day. August 24th, they can check my tweets. I tweeted it out. I said, those who are corrupt in leadership, whether you're a political leader or whether you're an evangelical leader, those who have sold their soul to the devil himself to get to where you're at, you need to repent because his time is short. He knows it, but he's also coming after his dues, which is you. And I put exclamation point on that. And the next day, John McCain dies.
Wow. Now,
John McCain was a prophetic time marker. I want people to understand this. He was a prophetic time marker in the sense that we've gone from judgment now that's being ruled to justice being served. Justice is here. Now, when does the mass justice happen? That's the key answer. We can put two and two together here. I think there's going to be some arrests probably. I'm not prophesying this. I am human. I can have an opinion at times, but I'll just tell you what I'm sensing. There may be some arrests before the midterms. I don't know. But the president has got to have Congress, has to have his back.
Yes, he does.
The one executive order he signed does not take effect until January. Also notice the new Congress doesn't take effect until January as well. So I think when January comes around, Katie, bar the door. I mean, again, they could start some of this before a little bit. You know what I mean? They could, like the FISA report may be coming out. They're talking about this week. There could be some arrests. I don't know. Again, I don't know the timing of this. God's got a plan, but what people have to understand is that the enemy is quaking and shaking. We are fighting a true enemy, and we have just got to put our head down. We have established a beachhead. That's the good news. We have established a beachhead. Mm-hmm. It is up to us to drive inland and continue to hold that beachhead, but also to continue to take ground and hold it for the kingdom of God, which is exactly what's going to happen.
Right. And Mark, you mentioned the enemy being shaken and quaking, and one of the greatest tools the enemy uses is accusation. But he's called the accuser of the brethren in Revelation. He accuses the saints to God, and he accuses God to the saints. I mean, every one of us have had that little voice whisper in our head, well, this wouldn't have happened to you if God would have really cared about you, and God don't love you, and God this and God that. Satan is an expert at putting those thoughts in people's heads. And on the reverse, I look at what's happening to Kavanaugh, and again, these accusations, Mark, and I'm looking at this as a spiritual thing. I'm not looking at this as political. To me, it's all spiritual.
Right.
Because you see, an accusation of this nature that is 35 years old, neither Kavanaugh nor the accuser can prove it. She can say all she wants to and use all the, talk to every counselor in the world and have everybody and her friends come forward. And then Brett Kavanaugh, at the same token, if he comes out and says, I didn't do anything, I categorically deny this, well, there's no proof. Nobody was there but the two. But my point about that is that we as believers and we as people out here, you've been saying this a lot, and you've said it a lot in the last program. You've said it to me. You've said it to everybody. We've got to turn off the enemy's voice. We cannot listen and let the media tell us and convince us that these things are true. We've got to keep praying, keep pressing, keep pushing, keep supporting. Don't let the enemy convince us that what's being said is true, because he is the master deceiver. And deception and accusation, false accusation, is so part of his arsenal. And I believe that's one of the reasons, Mark, if you look at Proverbs 6, God says, he that brings a false witness against his neighbor and a lying tongue, and he that sows discord among the brethren, that's part of things that, there's only a few things in Scripture when God says he hates. God says he hates those things.
That's right.
Those things he abhors. And he sees this happening to our nation, Mark. And I believe what's going to happen, like you said, we're in this turmoil. We're feeling the quote unquote hurricane of
we're in a time of transition.
We're transitioning.
Right.
But we've got to be careful what we listen to and whose voice we're listening to, because if we are not careful, we're going to get caught up and get discouraged and stop praying. If anything that this must do to us, it needs to mobilize the army of God and mobilize us as believers to pray even harder right now than we've ever prayed for Brett Kavanaugh and his family and this nation and President Trump.
Absolutely. And, I go back to the prophetic word I wrote called Satan's frequency. You can get tapped into Satan's frequency as a Christian. And when all you're doing is listening to the mainstream media, which, by the way, they broadcast on a certain frequency that is designed to frustrate you. It is designed to change your DNA. It is designed to produce fear, panic. It's propaganda. That's why when you listen to the mainstream media, a lot of times you feel like this. You just want to, shake the fire out of somebody. It's designed to do that because they're bombarding you with certain frequencies. And what happens is Christians get locked into that frequency. You can become addicted to doom and gloom, period. And what I tell people is, look, we need to know how to pray. We don't need to be ignorant of the enemy's weapons. We need to know. We need to know strategy and tactics. But you can cross. There's a fine balance there, and there's a line you can cross where you become addicted to it, and that's all you're hearing. And a lot of times prophetic voices will do the same thing. They'll get addicted to this stuff, and they're hearing the plans of the second heaven, and they're prophesying those plans as if it were the third heaven. And it's incorrect. It's because you're addicted. Sometimes you're hearing Satan's frequency. And can we get away from that? Absolutely we can. You need to bombard yourself with good stuff. Again, what I do is I'll get on Twitter. I'll catch the headlines. I'm the type of guy who's like, look, give me the bare minimums. Just be blunt and to the point. You know what I mean? So I go, sometimes I might look at Fox's website, catch the headlines. You know what I mean? I take that with a grain of salt. But if you really want to know the truth, I've been saying this from day one, go to the president's Twitter feed, go to his Facebook page, get the truth straight from the source. Or if you're a Q follower, follow Q. Now, if everybody asks me, how do I know that Q is legit? There's one main reason I know Q is in fact legit. And that is because everything Q has been saying, Chris, lines up with the prophecies that God has given me.